A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of Newsfirst Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst Centre in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudannayak. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Incessant rains continue as low-pressure system forms over Sri Lanka. Youth abducted for a ransom of 20 million in Variopola rescued. Contract for repairs on the Sapugaskanda oil refinery will not be granted outside of an open tender procedure. An assurance from the Petroleum Minister. History in the making. Two Sri Lankans commence attempt to reach the summit of Mount Everest.
The extreme weather has been affecting most parts of the island today. We now have Newsfirst Nadeem Majid from the Newsfirst Weather Centre to bring us a comprehensive report on the extreme weather condition affecting the island. Nadeem, over to you.
Thank you, Arundhati. Well, rains have been affecting much of the island. Just as you said, the Met Department noted that some parts of the island had received rainfall of 145 millimeters, quite substantial. Rains and strong winds that commenced in Colombo early this morning are still persisting. Of course, people in Colombo, if you're still on the road, many of the roads are inundated as well due to the persisting rainfall. If you look at the map behind me here, you see that what started out, this little blob of clouds here, what started out as an atmospheric disturbance has now intensified into a low pressure system. But the Met Department is forecasting that it will move in a northwards trajectory out of Sri Lanka. The Indian Meteorological Department has forecasted that it will enter Tamil Nadu by the 17th morning, on the morning of the 17th, between Pamban and Nagapatnam. However, tomorrow in Tamil Nadu, they'll be having state assembly elections. Rains have been forecast for tomorrow as well. So it'll be interesting to see what effect, if any, the rains will have on voter turnout. Meanwhile, fishermen around the coast have been asked not to set out to sea for the next 24 hours and possibly extended due to rough seas. The Met Department has forecast gusts of up to 70 to 80 kilometers per hour, which could cause swells and choppy waters. The Bandaranaike International Airport has said that the adverse weather conditions have not affected flights as yet. Flights are running to schedule. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defence has asked the public to inform the ministry, inform the various authorities of possible disaster situations that could arise in various parts of the island. Issuing a communique, the ministry added that several contact numbers have been introduced for this purpose. The operations room of Army headquarters can be contacted on 0112 434 251 and 0113 818 578. Operations room of the Sri Lankan Navy can be contacted on 0112 445 368, 0112 212 230 and 0112 212 231. The operations room of the Air Force can be contacted on 0112 343 970 and 0112 343 971. The Ministry of Defence said that if these numbers are unreachable, the nearest police station, divisional secretariat or disaster management centre could be informed of the matter. Shonel Pereira joins us from the field now with the latest.
Thank you very much, Nadeem. As much as the rains have affected the other parts of the island, Colombo too has severely been affected by these heavy showers. These heavy showers have caused much hindrances to transport systems and road travel. During the course of today, we were able to speak to a number of individuals across the island and looked into the difficulties they face on the current weather situation, and were able to see that they too face similar issues in transport systems and carrying out their day-to-day activities. Meanwhile, the Met Department has said that the general public need be cautious on possible lightning activity. Reporting to you from Colombo, I'm Shonel Pereira, News First.
That's Shonel Pereira braving the rain and the winds to bring us the latest from the streets of Colombo. Meanwhile, the National Building Research Organisation has issued landslide warnings for 8 districts.
The head of the Landslide Research and Risk Management Division of the National Building Research Organisation, RMS Bandara, said that the warnings have been issued for the Kandy, Ratnapura, Kurunagala, Kegol, Monragala, Badulla and Nuwara districts. Landslide warnings have been issued for Passara, Badulla, Haliyala, Alla, Bandarawala, Uvaparnagama, Haldumulla, Lunugala and Walimada in the Badulla district, while in the Monragala district warnings have been issued for the Badalkumbura area. Landslide warnings have also been issued for Tumpane, Udapalata, Pasbage, Ududumbara, Madadumbara and Gangawata Korale in the Kandy district. Landslide warnings have been issued in the Ratnapura district for Ayagama, Ahaliyagoda, Kiriyalla, Ratnapura, Balangoda, Kuruvita, Kalawana, Nivitigala, Palmadulla, Alapatha, Opanayaka, Waligapula, Kahawatta, Godakawela, Kolonna and Ibulpe. Landslide warnings have also been issued for Mawatagama, Ridhigama and Malwarapitiya in the Kurunagala district, while in the Nuwara district warnings have been issued for Walapane, Hanguranketha, Kotmale and Ambagamua. The NBRO adds that landslide warnings have been issued for Daraniyagala, Dehiovita, Ruanwalla, Yatiyantota, Bulatkohupitiya, Aranayaka, Kegol and Galigamua in the Kegol district and Rattota, Ukuwela and the Matale town in the Matale district.
Rains and gale force winds could be experienced in most parts of the island and in sea areas in the next 24 hours. The north, north-central, central and northwestern provinces and southwestern parts of the island will continue to experience rainfall between 100 and 150 millimeters at times. Sudden gusts of 70 to 80 kilometers per hour may be experienced in sea areas, causing swells and rough seas.
Our reporters at the Newsfirst Weather Centre have informed us just now that 7 sluice gates of the Daduroya Reservoir have been opened by 10 inches each owing to the heavy showers that are being experienced. The Director of the Water Management Unit of the Department of Irrigation, S. Mohan Raja, is urging those residing in low-lying areas around the reservoir to be extremely cautious. Now, the city of Colombo has been lashed by strong winds and rains since early this morning. Let's take a look at what's going on right now.
The Department of Meteorology says that the Colombo district has received a rainfall of 76.4 millimeters. The Kalani River reached spill level, causing homes in the Devani, Navagampura and Kettarama Alupar areas to flood. Vehicular movement in the Maligawata area was also hampered. The Sedavata Canal was at spill level as of this evening. Petta also received a considerable amount of rain today. The water levels of the Devana Oya, located close to the parliamentary complex, had risen by this evening. Large pools of water were seen close to the Suwata lane in Bellanvilla. Several homes in Delkandanugegoda were flooded, caused by a canal in the area overflowing. Residents of the Kumaratunga Munidasa Mawata in Tumulla were left in discomfort owing to the heavy downpours. The incessant rains were felt in areas close to the Nelumpokuna theatre as well. Low-lying areas in Narayanpeta were also inundated. Roads surrounding Torrington were also underwater. Meanwhile, several houses and roads down Mahabudgamur Temple Road were submerged underwater. The Kodikawad, the TC Road and the Hamwala roads were also underwater. Several areas including Vallampetiya, Vannavata and Brandiawata were inundated by the heavy downpours.
It's not just Colombo that has been affected by the extreme weather conditions. Let's take a look at the reports that were filed by our island-wide network of correspondents.
The highest rainfall of 145.8 millimeters during the past 24 hours was recorded in the Pothuwil area. 2 houses have caved in due to the heavy rains in the Puak Kodamulla area in Badulla district. Vehicular movement on the Allavallavaya road was hampered due to rock slides. 26 families who were evacuated due to the threat of landslides in the Pettigala mountains in Balangoda a few days ago are facing severe difficulties due to the heavy rainfall in the area. We have no way of preparing our meals here. We don't have sanitary and water facilities. A lot of people here are sick. We can't live like this. 25 houses were inundated as the water levels of the Madhuganga increased. Transportation between Badigama and Gaul was hampered as the Gaul-Badigama main road was flooded. Our correspondent stated that several low-lying areas were inundated due to the rise of water level in the Gingaga. Our correspondent reported that frequent showers were experienced in Gaul, Ahangama and Habaraduwa last night. Rainfall was reported in Ambalantota and Thalpe, Kahavanna in this manner. Fishermen along the Gold Coast did not set out to sea today. Heavy rains also lashed Galin Bindunuvava and Kakirava in Anuradhapura. The water levels of several reservoirs, including Huruluvava, have risen due to the heavy rainfall. Meanwhile, a temple in the Adampane area in Nochiyagama was damaged by lightning. Continuous rainfall was experienced in the Gampa district during the past 24 hours. The water level of the Athanagalla Oya has risen as a result of the incessant rain.
The district secretary informed us that the area will flood if this weather condition prevails. To avoid such a situation, all anecuts in the Gampa area have been opened.
96 persons from 18 families from the Surya Kanda estate in Maskeli have been evacuated to safer locations due to the threat of landslides. Officials have informed those living along the Mahavali River to be vigilant as 4 sluice gates of the Upper Kotmale Reservoir have been opened. During the past 24 hours, the Nuwareli district has received rainfall of 39 millimeters. Several houses in the Nuwareli town centre were damaged due to an earth slip. Several houses in the Gatakulava area in Hanguranketa were damaged due to an earth slip. Our correspondent stated that the damage was caused by the collapse of a haphazardly built wall. Meanwhile, a cab had veered off the road in the Digana Mahavali village along the Kandi Mayangane main road. 7 sluice gates of the Dadru Oya have been opened by 3 feet each. Meanwhile, the Dadru Oya has broken its banks in Chilaw. Our correspondent stated that several low-lying areas in the Chilaw town and many roads have been inundated as a result. 38 houses in Nallaruva, Panadura have been damaged due to strong winds that swept across the area. Transportation was hampered when a bridge on the Kataragama-Monragala main road collapsed.
Well, the forecast for the moment is more rain until that low pressure system starts moving northwards towards India. Meanwhile, our reporters here at the News First Weather Centre are working around the clock to keep you up to date. More news coming up after the break.
Taking a look at another one of our headline-making stories, the Ceylon Today newspaper reports that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is planning to award the contract to repair and modify the Sapugaskanda Petroleum Refinery to an Indian company without calling for open tenders. In a special expose, the paper reports that a group of senior officials who have obtained bribes from the Indian company in question are attempting to hand the contract to the company.
In its Sunday publication today, the Ceylon Today reports that the Indian company is planning to repair the refinery at a low standard without following the open tender procedure. The newspaper goes on to say that the Indian company had carried out a study on a repair that needed to be done at the oil refinery in 2013 without following the tender procedure. Incidentally, that too was supported by the same group of officials. According to the Ceylon Today expose, since 2013, the Indian company in question has been tinkering with the Sapugaskanda Petroleum Refinery. The newspaper adds that the company wants to maintain the contract by merely tinkering with the refinery. In its report, the Ceylon Today adds that the Indian company is showing videos of refineries in other countries which had exploded during overhaul to frighten certain senior officials at the CPC.
A report was submitted at the monthly progress review meeting of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. The report noted that 2 units were in a dilapidated condition and that there is the possibility of an explosion during attempts to overhaul the units, and thereby preliminary steps would be taken to repair certain parts. Explosions occurred at the Ceylon Electricity Board transformers too, one after the other, and the people were in the dark. On the back of that, it was said that they are unable to supply the power required by the people, and therefore electricity would be purchased from the private sector at a higher price. Given what is being said, a suspicion has arisen among us as to whether there is a risk of explosions at the refinery. If the corrupt persons of the past are attempting to do the same at present, then we state to the government that they must take steps against these officials on behalf of the people. There is a possibility that this will aggravate to a level where the CPC will lose the refinery. So we say to the government that it is pointless to drone on about good governance when the oligarchy is once again attempting to give out an unsolicited tender. Immediately approve the state procurement procedure, bring in qualified people, grant the tender to overhaul the refinery so it functions more efficiently, and take steps to protect the refinery, which is a national resource. Immediately stop these unsolicited tenders, commissions and deals for tinkering with the refinery. As a party, we believe that this process should be undertaken through a proper tender procedure. I do not believe that our officials will operate in that way, but if there is evidence of irregularities or illegal actions, then we will not hesitate to take action either. At this moment, a cabinet paper has been submitted seeking permission to conduct an open and competitive tender process for repairs at the Sapugaskanda oil refinery. I state responsibly and I guarantee that the tender to repair the oil refinery will be given to the most suited, best qualified and most cost-effective bidder through an open and competitive tender process.
Built in August 1969, the Sapugaskanda petroleum refinery was expected to refine 2 million metric tons of crude oil a year. However, due to the lack of maintenance at the refinery for over 40 years, its efficiency has declined. Minister of Petroleum Resources Development Chandima Veerakodi said that repairing the refinery could save a sum of over $350 million a year.
The youth who was abducted for a ransom of 20 million rupees in Variapula was found abandoned near a clock tower in Nikavaratia early this morning. 3 suspects have been arrested in connection with the kidnapping.
The young man was kidnapped on 3rd Lane on the Malvatta road on his way home from the shop at the Variapula town belonging to his father at around 8:10 on Thursday night.
There are 2 people in the shop. My brother goes home every day to bring them food. He left at around 8:10. I called my mother around 8:30 to ask my brother to come back to the shop quickly, as I was planning to close it for the night.
By that time, the kidnappers had abducted the youth travelling home on a motorcycle 50 metres away from his residence.
They had come close to the residence and abducted my son in a hybrid car. Half an hour later, they called demanding a ransom of 20 million rupees.
The police deployed 5 teams to conduct investigations in search of the suspects. In the meantime, the kidnappers had demanded that the ransom be brought to the Markelia bus stop on Friday. Although the youth's parents arrived at the location accompanied by the police, the kidnappers did not turn up. On Saturday afternoon, the kidnappers had contacted the youth's brother. The kidnappers contacted the youth's father again last evening.
Salli mama deepu gawma dendone. දැන් මාත්‍යා කියමුකෝ ඔයාට ගාවට මම සල්ලි දුන්නා නම් අය වෙන කවුරු හරි පොතාව තියාගෙන තාවත් දෙන්නකෝ කිව්වනම් කොහෙන්ද මම එන්නේ මම මැරෙන්න ඕනේ.
Meanwhile, the police apprehended 2 of the suspected kidnappers and seized the vehicle used in the kidnapping last evening. One of the suspects is an engineering graduate from the Moratuwa University. Investigations have revealed that he had made major losses through involvement in a pyramid scheme. Following news of the capture of the 2 kidnappers coming to light, the other kidnappers had abandoned the youth at the depot junction in Nikavaratia early this morning.
Around 6:10, a child came to the shop all wet in the rain. He asked if he could take a phone call. I said, yes, you can, but where are you from? He said he was kidnapped and abandoned close to the Anicut at the top of the road. Then he tried to call the police on 119. At that instance, a brown-coloured car came and a Muddalali and a group of police officers took him away.
The suspect, who was in shock when taken into protective custody by the police, was admitted to the Kurunegala hospital. The police said that the youth had been beaten and that the kidnappers had stuck tape on his face and eyelids. After receiving treatment, the youth was brought to Warriapula to record a statement. The police are continuing the hunt for 4 suspects, including the leader of the kidnapping ring.
Video footage has contributed much in uncovering evidence related to a number of crimes that have taken place in recent times. Now, police have used CCTV footage to arrest a suspect in a suspicious death that took place in the Dumbalawatha area in Morawaka.
This footage was recorded at a shop in Morawaka. The video, which shows 2 persons arriving on a motorcycle and the pillion rider falling off the bike, was recorded on the 12th of this month. Later on, the footage shows the rider of the motorcycle carrying the fallen individual and fleeing. The Morawaka police had commenced investigations on the matter after the wife of the individual lodged a complaint with the police on the 13th that her husband had not returned home. The owner of the shop too had filed an entry with the police the very same day that this shop's CCTV camera had captured some unusual footage. Meanwhile, another entry was filed with the police by a resident of the Morawaka area that a body was found close to the Nilwala river. The rider of the motorcycle was arrested when investigations were launched into the incident, and he had stated that the victim had fallen into the Nilwala river while he and the victim were on their way home. When further investigations were conducted, it was revealed that the bridge close to the Nilwala river, where the body was found, was in a dilapidated state. The judicial medical inquiry confirmed that the death was caused by drowning. The brother of the victim has been taken into custody for attempting to cover up the death. Meanwhile, the body of a resident of the Devalapola area in Minuwangoda has been found in a field in the area. The police stated that the body was found upon a tip-off received by an area resident. The relatives had lodged a complaint with the police that the said individual had gone missing 2 days ago. Meanwhile, the body of a youth was found last morning in the Palana area in Valigama.
The JVP expressed the following views on the central bank bond issues at a media briefing held today.
Having initially indicated that they wished to raise 1,000 million through the bond issue, they raised 10,000 million. The interest rate increased from 9.5% to 12.5%. As a result of the interest rate increasing from 9.5 to 12.5%, the interest on our debt increased. At the start of this year, the central bank noted that debt repayments amounting to $3.4 billion have to be made. In order to pay $3.4 billion, they have to secure a loan. The limitations in obtaining a loan from the IMF or another such institution and the high interest rates in the open market have affected our financial markets. On one hand, the government has to make higher than expected debt repayments as a result of the increased interest rate in the debt market. So the 3.4 billion debt has increased by 60 to 70 billion due to the increased interest rate. The central bank governor has said that it is their responsibility to implement the government's tax policy and seek revenue for the government. We asked the central bank governor whether they need to seek out funding in order to cover up their theft of public funds. Have these taxes been suddenly imposed on the people in order to fill up the treasury that was emptied out? During the general election, the president said in public that he had asked the prime minister to remove the governor of the central bank. In June, the central bank governor's term will expire. So the president is now able to prevent his reappointment because it is the president and not the prime minister who appoints the governor of the central bank. I can say that the President and the Prime Minister will discuss it. It does not fall within my portfolio. I believe that the matter is being conducted successfully.
The Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Minister Sagala Ratnayaka, says that a matter of purchasing 2 security vehicles for the Prime Minister will be discussed in Parliament. Ratnayaka issued a statement today considering the opposition to the move expressed by Chief Opposition Whip Andrew Kumar Disanayaka.
Minister Sagala Ratnayaka points out in his statement that Ranil Wickremesinghe has not received any vehicles from the Prime Minister's office at present. The statement reads further that the Prime Minister has been provided 3 vehicles from the Presidential Secretariat, adding that due to the need to periodically repair these vehicles, a cost of 9.8 million rupees has been incurred. He points out that these vehicles were manufactured in 2006, 2008 and 2012. Ratnayaka adds that as a result, the Prime Minister often uses his personal vehicle. Furthermore, he claims that following the presidential election, the best vehicles at the Presidential Secretariat were taken away by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Ratnayaka notes that the 2 vehicles to be purchased on the recommendation of the Prime Minister's Security Division, considering the safety of the Prime Minister, will cost approximately 128 million rupees. He points out that since the balance 468 million is made up of government taxes, it is merely a transfer of monies from one government account to another. The Prime Minister's Chief of Staff says that given the opposition that has arisen to the proposed purchase of these vehicles, the matter will be discussed in Parliament, following which the appropriate steps will be taken.
Johan Peiris and Jayanti Kurutumpala are making an attempt to touch the roof of the world, capturing the attention of all Sri Lankans. They will go down in history as the first Sri Lankans to have climbed Mount Everest when they complete the final leg of the climb.
Mountaineering is an extreme sport and is not for the weak of heart. Johan Peiris and Jayanti Kurutumpala have been avid mountaineers for many years, gaining experience in order to achieve their dream of climbing Mount Everest one day. They left the final camp at around 9 to complete the last leg of the journey, a pilgrimage and achievement of a lifetime of mountaineers. Johan Peiris is a hairstylist. His companion on the expedition, Jayanti Kurutumpala, is an advocate for women's rights and gender equality. This is not the first expedition the duo have undertaken. They have scaled Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania and Imjatse in Nepal previously. They also attended a training camp for mountaineers hoping to climb Mount Everest. Mount Everest, located between Nepal and Tibet, is 8,848 meters or 29,029 feet above sea level. The roof of the world was untouched by humans until Sir Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay ascended on the 29th of May 1953. The 63rd anniversary of the expedition falls on the 29th of this month. While more than 4,000 people have reached the summit, about 250 have died trying to take on the mountain. No Sri Lankan has ever reached the summit. With their strength, determination, commitment and training, we pray that Johan and Jayanti will succeed in becoming the first Sri Lankans to plant the national flag on the roof of the world.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of News First Weekend. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.